You might think the moment sex ends is when everything's over, that the physical connection is done and now it's just silence. But what if I told you that what a man really needs after sex is often something completely different and almost always overlooked? What if that quiet moment holds the key to deeper connection, trust, and understanding that many relationships are missing? Let's dive into what men are truly craving once the lights go down. It's easy to think that once the physical part of sex is over, the connection is complete, that the intimacy has peaked and now it's time to roll over, check our phones, or drift off. But what so many people don't realize, especially in relationships where miscommunication starts to build, is that for men, the emotional connection often begins right after sex. Not before, not during, after. And when that moment is overlooked, something subtle but significant gets lost. Now, this isn't about painting men as overly sensitive or saying every guy is sitting there waiting for cuddles and poetry. It's about acknowledging that what men have been taught to suppress, emotional expression, vulnerability, and the need for connection, doesn't suddenly disappear when the bedroom door closes. In fact, it's often when those walls are most likely to come down. But here's the thing, men have been conditioned to perform in sex, to lead, to initiate, to be confident, to be strong. And when it's over, there's often a quiet question lingering in the background. Did I do okay? Did she feel close to me, or was it just physical? Was it enough? That post-X moment, those few minutes after the climax, can either affirm or shake a man's emotional security in the relationship. If he feels emotionally held in that moment, if he senses he's more than just a body or a performance, it sticks with him. And if he doesn't, if there's emotional distance or a lack of acknowledgement, it can trigger self-doubt, or worse, a feeling that something meaningful is missing. And most women don't even realize this is happening, because no one teaches women to look out for this. In fact, women are often taught that men don't need emotional reassurance, that they're fine, that their needs end with physical release. But that's just not true. Many men crave closeness after sex. They just don't always know how to ask for it. They want to feel like the intimacy meant something, that it wasn't just a transaction, but a deepening of trust, a shared moment that lingered even after the bodies parted. And because so many guys feel they be judged or seen as needy for wanting more than just the physical, they stay quiet. They lie there, hoping their partner will reach out, say something, offer a hand on the chest or a kiss on the shoulder, anything that says, I'm still here with you. Think about that. How many times does a man give his body, his energy, his desire, and then wait in silence, hoping for emotional connection but too afraid to ask for it? That's not weakness. That's humanity. That's what real intimacy is made of. And when women overlook that moment, not intentionally, but maybe just because it's not on their radar, they miss a powerful opportunity to connect on a deeper level, to not only give love, but to allow the man to feel safe giving it back. Most men will never say this out loud. They'll laugh it off. They'll throw on their clothes, make a joke, or go straight to sleep. But inside, they're waiting for that moment where someone reaches out and says, I love being close to you, or you make me feel so safe, so good. Something that says you mattered to me in that moment. And if more women understood this, not just intellectually, but emotionally, it would change everything about how intimacy is experienced on both sides. Because sex doesn't end when the bodies separate. For many men, that's when the real closeness is just beginning. For a lot of men, sex isn't just about pleasure, it's about proving something. Whether they realize it or not, many guys are carrying this invisible pressure into the bedroom. The pressure to perform, to impress, to be unforgettable. It starts young too. From the moment boys learn about sex, it's framed like a scoreboard. Did you last long enough? Did she finish? Were you dominant enough? The entire experience becomes a kind of test, one where being good at sex is supposed to mean being good enough as a man. So imagine what happens after it's all over. After the intensity fades, the adrenaline drops, and now it's quiet. That's when the doubts creep in. Did she enjoy it? Was she into me? Did I measure up to her expectations? Did she just go along with it, or was she genuinely connected? These questions don't always get voiced, but they're sitting just beneath the surface. And the truth is, a lot of men are walking away from sexual moments feeling unsure, not just about how the sex went, but about how they were received. What gets overlooked here is the very real need that many men have to feel valued beyond their performance, not just as someone who can give physical pleasure, but as someone who can offer emotional closeness, safety, and connection. And here's the problem: when a woman becomes quiet, distant, or disengaged after sex, even unintentionally, some men will take that as confirmation that they didn't do enough, or worse, that they were only wanted for what their body could offer, not who they are. It's not that women are doing something wrong, it's that this is a blind spot in how we're taught to view men's emotional lives. We're told men are visual, physical, and driven by desire, but we rarely talk about how deep that desire goes. Yes, men want to be desired physically, but they also want to be appreciated emotionally. They want to know that their effort was received, that they were a good lover and a good partner in that moment. A word, a smile, a genuine "I loved that." It's not just ego stroking, it's affirmation, it's reassurance. It tells a man, you're not just here to perform, you're here because I value you. This matters especially in committed relationships where emotional intimacy is just as important as physical chemistry. When a man feels like he's being judged solely on how well he performed in bed, it creates emotional distance. He may start to pull away, joke more and share less, or avoid vulnerability altogether. But when he feels accepted and appreciated after sex, not just for what he did, but for who he is, that's when real closeness starts to build. The irony is, women often want the exact same thing. They want to feel seen, wanted, adored, not just during sex, but afterward too. They want to know they're not just being used for their body, and yet it rarely occurs to them that men might be carrying the same fear. The truth is, both people want the same thing, to feel like they matter beyond the physical act. But because men aren't encouraged to express that need, it gets buried under silence or masked with bravado. And that's the key here. After sex, what most men are looking for isn't applause, it's acknowledgement. Not a performance review, but a moment of warmth. Something that says, I see you, I appreciate you, you matter to me. Because when a man feels valued not just for what he gave physically, but for who he was in that intimate space, it changes everything. It makes the connection real, and it makes him want to keep showing up, not just in bed, but in every part of the relationship. Reassurance. It's one of those things we all need, but don't always know how to ask for. Especially men. After sex, that moment of physical closeness may be over, but emotionally, there's still something hanging in the air. Something quiet, something unspoken. And for a lot of men, that silence can feel confusing, because while sex is supposed to be this ultimate act of connection, it can also leave someone feeling unexpected, vulnerable even. That's the part we don't talk about enough. Society paints this picture of men as unshakable, confident, emotionally detached. The idea is that they go into sex looking for pleasure, and once they get it, they're good. But that's just a surface level story. The reality is much more layered. Many men carry insecurities they've never said out loud, about their bodies, their performance, their ability to satisfy their partner, their ability to even emotionally connect. And when the physical act ends, they're often left wondering, was it good for her? Did she enjoy being with me? Did I connect with her the way I wanted to? But here's where the gap starts to show. Most men don't know how to voice these questions. They've spent years learning to suppress that kind of emotional language. They're told not to be too sensitive, not to second guess themselves, not to seek validation. So instead of saying, hey, did that feel good for you? Or did I make you feel close to me? They stay quiet. They wait for a sign, a look, a word, some kind of gesture that says, yes, I'm here with you. I'm happy. I feel close. And when that doesn't come, even unintentionally, it leaves space for doubt to creep in. Not just about the sex, but about the connection as a whole. It's not that they need to be praised or reassured every time. It's that for men who genuinely care about the connection they're building, a little emotional feedback means a lot. It tells them where they stand. It tells them they're not alone in the moment. For many women, post-sex reassurance may not seem necessary. They might assume that if everything seemed fine during, it's all good afterward. They may even need space themselves, not because they're disconnected, but because of how they process intimacy. But men often interpret that quietness differently. A moment of silence might feel like distance. A lack of eye contact might register as disinterest. A partner turning away might be read as disappointment. And because they don't ask, because they don't know how, it becomes something they carry on their own. And this is why even the smallest words can have a big impact. A soft, "That was amazing," or "I feel so close to you right now," can ease all those unspoken doubts. A smile, a hand reaching out, a simple, "I loved that." Not just for the physicality, but for the moment as a whole. These little signals tell a man that he didn't just perform, he connected. That it wasn't just sex, it was intimacy. That he wasn't just wanted, he was valued. And what happens next is beautiful. When a man feels emotionally safe in those moments, he opens up more. He relaxes. He invests deeper. He listens better. And he wants to show up for the relationship, not out of duty, but because he feels deeply connected. So many men aren't afraid of commitment. They're afraid of being vulnerable without support. When they get reassurance, they don't just feel wanted, they feel understood. And for a man who's been taught to hold it all in, that kind of understanding is rare. But when it happens, it changes everything. There's something that happens in the quiet right after sex that many people don't think about, but it makes all the difference. When two people have just shared something that intimate, you'd think both would naturally feel close and secure. But for a lot of men, that's not always how it plays out. In fact, that moment after sex can be one of the most emotionally confusing for a man. Not because something went wrong, but because silence can be misread. If a woman becomes quiet, withdrawn, or simply turns away without thinking, he may not see that as her relaxing or being lost in her own thoughts. He might take it as something else entirely, disconnection. Men don't often talk about this, but many of them feel a strange, almost fragile vulnerability right after sex. It's a moment where the guard they usually wear drops, even if just for a few minutes. And in that openness, they're hoping for something. Not just affirmation, but a sign that the emotional connection is still alive and present. If she pulls away, even slightly, it can feel like a door closing. Not because she means to send that message, but because that's how easily the male mind, especially one conditioned to be emotionally guarded, interprets subtle cues. When a woman gets quiet after sex, she might be feeling satisfied, reflective, or even just tired. She may not feel the need to talk or cuddle or say anything at all. She might assume the experience spoke for itself. But a man who's still in that emotionally open space can read her silence very differently. He might think she's disappointed, or distant, or even regretting the whole thing. These interpretations might sound extreme, but they're rooted in something real. His fear of not being enough, or worse, of being unwanted once the physical part is over. And because most men don't feel safe voicing those fears, they keep them tucked away. They don't say, "Hey, are you okay?" or "Did I do something wrong?" Instead, they retreat emotionally. They mirror what they're seeing. If she pulls away, he pulls away too. If she's quiet, he goes silent. And over time, these moments start to add up. What was once vulnerability becomes a wall. Not because he wants to be distant, but because he's trying to protect himself from feeling like the connection wasn't real. This isn't about putting the responsibility solely on women. It's about bringing awareness to something that often goes unnoticed. So many women think men are emotionally bulletproof, that once sex is done, they're content. But the truth is, some of the most emotionally open moments a man will have come immediately after intimacy. And what he receives or doesn't receive in that moment often determines how safe he feels bringing his heart forward in the future. This is why even small gestures can go a long way. A glance, a smile, a quiet word like, "That was amazing," or "I'm so happy we're together." These things don't take much effort, but they speak volumes. They say, "You're still connected to me." They say, "I'm here and this mattered." Without them, the silence can feel cold, even if that wasn't the intention. With them, the silence feels warm and shared. The irony is, many men would never admit this. They'll act like they're fine, they'll shrug it off, crack a joke, or go straight to sleep. But underneath that, they're listening, they're watching. They're trying to figure out if they were just part of a physical act, or if they were truly emotionally seen. And when they don't get that answer clearly, they fill in the blanks with fear, not facts. That's how disconnection starts, even in relationships filled with love. There's this quiet truth about men that rarely gets spoken aloud. Many of them deeply crave physical affection after sex, but don't know how to ask for it. It's not because they're emotionally closed off or don't want connection. It's because they've been taught that the moment sex ends, their role is done. For a lot of guys, the idea that they might need to be held, kissed, or simply touched in a gentle, non-sexual way after intimacy feels like something they're not allowed to admit. And yet, it's often exactly what they want. The assumption tends to go the other way. People think of women as the ones who desire cuddling, emotional closeness, soft touch. And sure, many women do, but what gets lost in that belief is the fact that men are human too. They have the same nervous systems, the same emotional wiring. They may express it differently or hide it better, but that doesn't make the need any less real. After sex, when a man is at his most physically and emotionally exposed, touch becomes something grounding. It brings him back into the relationship. It reminds him that the experience wasn't just about physical release. It was about being wanted, being accepted, being loved. And here's what's interesting. Men might not always initiate this kind of closeness, but that doesn't mean they don't want it. In fact, a lot of men hold back from reaching out because they're afraid of being seen as clingy or too emotional. They've internalized this idea that strength means detachment, that once sex is over, they're supposed to get up, move on, and show that they're in control. So instead of rolling over and holding their partner or asking to be held themselves, they stay still, they go silent, they wait. And in that waiting, there's often a quiet hope that their partner will reach for them instead. Physical closeness after sex does more than just feel good. It communicates something powerful without words. A hand on the chest, fingers tracing along the arm, skin-to-skin contact. These aren't just casual gestures. They tell a man, "You're safe here." They say, "You're not just wanted for what you did, you're wanted for who you are." And those messages matter more than most people realize, especially for men who have spent most of their lives being touched only when they're performing, whether in sports, in work, or yes, even in sex. When a woman initiates that kind of closeness after sex, it often surprises a man, not in a bad way, but in a way that reaches a part of him he's not used to having touched. It reminds him that intimacy doesn't end when the bodies stop moving. That connection isn't just about what happens during the act. It's about how someone chooses to stay emotionally present afterward. And for men, that presence is felt deeply in the body, in the warmth of a cuddle, in the weight of an arm across his chest, in the simplicity of shared stillness. What makes this all even more important is how rarely men talk about it. If you asked most guys directly, they might laugh it off or act indifferent. But watch closely. The ones who stay close after sex, who linger in bed a little longer, who soften when you touch them, they're telling you something. They're showing you that their need for affection doesn't end with climax, that their capacity for emotional intimacy is bigger than they let on. And when a woman recognizes that and meets him there, without judgment, without assuming he should be fine on his own, it creates a kind of trust that doesn't need to be spoken. It just exists in the quiet closeness of two people not pulling away. After sex, many men find themselves in a unique emotional space, one that's quieter and more vulnerable than usual. It's a moment when the usual defenses come down and the layers of everyday stress, pride, and performance slip away. This is often when men feel safest to open up emotionally. Yet many women don't realize how important this space is or how much men actually need it. What men really need after intimacy isn't just physical closeness or validation. It's the chance to be heard, to share what's on their mind, and to connect on a deeper emotional level. Most men don't grow up with the language or permission to express their feelings openly, especially the kinds of feelings that come after being physically and emotionally intimate. The culture around masculinity teaches them to be tough, self-reliant, and emotionally contained. So when that barrier comes down, even just for a moment, they're often sitting with thoughts and feelings that rarely see the light of day. It might be about the relationship, their fears, hopes, or even just something simple but meaningful they want to share. That's why creating space for that kind of vulnerability is so powerful. This space doesn't have to be filled with heavy conversations or big declarations. Often it's about soft exchanges, a few gentle words, a question, or simply listening without judgment. When a man feels like he can speak without being interrupted or dismissed, it's incredibly freeing. It builds trust in a way that goes beyond physical attraction or surface-level affection. It tells him that he can be seen not just as a lover, but as a whole person, complete with insecurities, dreams, and complexities. But here's the tricky part. Many women don't know how to create this space after sex. Sometimes because they're tired, or because they don't expect men to want to talk, they might retreat into silence or distraction. And though that might feel like a normal or even necessary way to recharge, it can leave men feeling emotionally isolated. It's not that men want a lecture or a therapy session, they just want to know that their feelings matter, that their thoughts are important, and that they can be vulnerable without fear of judgment. By simply being present, making eye contact, gently asking how he's feeling, or sharing something from your own heart, you invite a man into a new kind of intimacy. This is where relationships grow from physical attraction into emotional partnership. It's the difference between being together and truly connecting. And it often happens in the quiet moments after the rush of passion fades, when two people are just sitting side by side, open and available. When men are given this space to express themselves, it also changes how they show up in the relationship. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability. When he feels safe to open up, he's more likely to listen deeply, to share more honestly, and to invest emotionally in ways that feel genuine and lasting. It breaks down the walls that many men build, sometimes without realizing it, and replaces them with bridges that connect hearts, not just bodies. So many couples miss out on this because they don't realize how important it is. They focus on the act itself or on physical closeness, but overlook the emotional closeness that can follow. And that's a shame, because that post space is a golden opportunity, a moment when emotional intimacy can be deepened in ways that few other times allow. The truth is, men don't just want to be left alone after sex. They want to be invited in, to be given the room to express what's inside them, and to know they'll be met with warmth, curiosity, and care. And when they experience that, something shifts. The relationship feels stronger, more real, and more connected. It becomes a place where both people can be seen, heard, and loved, not just for the moments they share physically, but for the emotional journey they're on together. What men really need after sex goes far beyond the physical. It's about feeling valued not just for their performance, but for who they are as a whole person. It's about reassurance that the connection is still alive, about gentle touch that speaks without words, and about emotional space where vulnerability is welcomed, not judged. These needs are often overlooked because they're subtle, unspoken, or hidden beneath layers of societal expectations. But when women recognize and respond to these deeper needs, it changes everything. It creates a bond that lasts far beyond the bedroom, a bond built on trust, respect, and genuine emotional closeness. And in that kind of connection, both partners find something rare and beautiful, the feeling of truly being seen, accepted, and loved.